Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. And welcome, we have Theresa Marie Brindley, to give her full name. And it's probably no secret that she is a dear, dear friend, but also a woman I seek wisdom from time to time. And Theresa and I went to Base Camp Everest together. We shared a room, so we know each other a little bit more intimately than the normal friendship. And to share a little bit about Theresa with you, her career started as an aspiring actress, and she did have a role in Coronation Street, which she'll tell us about herself. And then latterly, she has been a school teacher and now owns a shop in Pocklington called I Love Zero, a sustainability shop. What I love about Theresa is when we're walking up, climbing, hiking, trekking, whatever we want to call it, to Base Camp Everest in the pouring rain for 11 days. Not that I want you to feel sorry for us. Her motto was that she wants to tread as kindly on the planet as possible. And that meant how she bathed, even the products she used to bathe in. I say bathe, we're laughing.
Yeah, I was going to say, or not bathing.
Not bathing. Wet wipes. What she ate. Her clothes. So I love that about you, Theresa, is that you want to tread as kindly on the planet as possible. It's just a lovely phrase. And so I'd love to start with my opening question, and then we'll just see where we go. And it's as much a surprise to both of us often where the conversation leads. Lisa, is there a time or times that you feel you can share on this broadcast where you've had moments, that stirring, that ache, that you just knew you were meant for more?
I know, do you know, I've been thinking of this question when I've been listening to your other podcasts, and in honesty, I think I've had many stirrings and moments throughout my life where I've just gone, I need to do more, or there's more for me than this, or I don't want it just to be this small. And sometimes those moments are hard because it means you've got to take some ownership and responsibility and then do something to change it. And sometimes I've looked back and gone, oh my word, what a ride. That just all kind of happened organically. And other times, you know, you have to do work, do some hard work to get yourself there. So yeah, there's been many moments, I guess. The first one, like you say, was acting. I always knew from an early age that I wanted to be an actress, but was incredibly shy. So I remember my mum just saying to me, well, that's not going to happen, is it? And then actually when she realised I was serious about it, then they did let me go to like a youth theatre and a drama group. And again, I sat there not talking to people, but loving it. And actually, eventually, it really helped build my confidence. And I think, if nothing else, the drama experience for me gave me that confidence to do things like this, to stand up and talk to people. But I loved the performing, and I thought, this is what I want to do for a living. This is, you know, the path I want to take. So I did go to university, did a drama and English degree, lived in Liverpool, loved it, went to acting workshops, but spent about 6 years living a very hand-to-mouth existence, predominantly on the dole, as it was then called, doing lots of workshops and free things in the hope that I'm going to make my break and meet that director and, you know, be discovered. Which it did to a small point, like you say, with the Coronation Street. And that, again, was through my own tenacity of just hounding an agent, a casting director, actually, who I got that part and thought, this is it now. My acting career is made. It wasn't. But equally, it's been an amazing springboard because there's many things I've done where that role in Coronation Street's kind of been a little bit of a, okay, we'll meet her then, or we'll talk to her, or we'll go to her fitness classes, or, you know, and that kind of thing. So
What, just share with everybody what the role was, when it was, how long
Okay.
you had it for, and also what it meant to you to have that role. Yes.
Yeah. So it was years wise, it would have been about, let me think. I'm really bad at saying it would have been early mid 90s. And I was a nurse who had an affair with Martin Platt. The character's name was Kathy Power. And the funny story was I'd hounded this woman in Leeds who was the like a casting director in Leeds. And she kept saying, "Oh, next time you're in Leeds, let me know you." And so it was back in the day when you'd write letters, no emails. Eventually I wore her down. She said, "Come for an interview." She literally had a Rolodeck that she spam and said, "Why would I give you a part?" Basically wiped the floor with me. But when I came out of there, I felt absolutely wrung out. But I thought, I think she likes me though, because I
Mm.
just was like hungry for it. So she then sent me for a casting for Heartbeat. And I met this casting director there who didn't get the part in Heartbeat. But when he was doing the interviews for Coronation Street for the role of Kathy Power, he actually said to, I think it was James Bain then on Coronation Street, met this girl in Leeds. I think she'd be great for the part. Went for the audition, no idea what it was about, read the script, and actually in some ways that was probably better. They just said she's a little bit sassy, you know, she's kind of
You
caused
or the
shots,
character?
the character. Although he probably thought I was sassy because they part that I was auditioning for Heartbeat, they said, right, this sexy woman comes in on the motorbike, how would you do sexy? And I'm like, how do you want me to do sexy? And this guy's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm going, well, because sexy is different things to different people. And it was very much like, you tell me what you want me to do. That's not me normally, but I was a bit like, oh, for goodness sake, these parts for women that were so kind of like sexy girl on motorbike. And I think that's what this other casting director saw in me. He was like, she's got a bit of cheek about her. And the part initially, I just thought, oh my word, because it was on Christmas Day. I think it was 94. We'll have to check that. And it was in the Radio Times and the TV Times. And it was like, this is a big deal because I got to snog Martin Platt on Christmas Day. That, yeah, it was acting. But then it was a case then of, oh, right, can you come in? And then there was another date. And I was like, oh, brilliant. They've given me another date. So from one episode, I got six over the course of 3 months. And it was like every time I went in, they'd say, can you come back on such a date? Can you come back on such a date? And I'd gone from kind of working in really cold, drafty theatres, doing extra work, to suddenly being chauffeur driven where someone's doing your makeup and putting a coat around you and giving you a hot drink. And I'm like, I am not going back to those extra jobs. And, you know,
Wow.
it was brilliant. But at the time, the actors who played Gail and Martin were very honest and said, we're not very happy with this storyline because potentially it threatens one or other of our roles
Whoops.
in it. And I was a bit like, well, sorry, nothing to do with me. I'm just happy turning up here and doing it. And literally the last episode I had, the guy who was filming said to me, when are you in again? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'll wait and hear because that'd be in the pattern. And I waited to hear and I waited to hear. And I remember watching it at home with my partner and Martin dumped me on the telephone. And we both went, guess you're not going back in then.
Unless you go back in as a psycho.
Maybe.
I
Well,
know.
I think there's growth there, you know, there's room. But yeah,
Is
so mine,
he still in the show?
no.
So we
But you
can't
see,
use that angle.
I know there was three nurses who had situations with the character of Martin. I was the middle one. And then a few years later, the storyline kind of reran and it was Jill Harpenny.
Oh, yes, yes,
I know, right? I peaked too soon,
yes.
obviously. So I was like, oh, that was the same storyline, but several years on. But at the time, because to supplement the acting work, I'd done loads of bar work and waitressing, which I'd always seen as a student job. And eventually I moved to Leeds and I thought that for me was like a line in the sand. I remember thinking, I'm 25. I've been waitressing since I'm 16. I do not do any more waitressing or bar work when I go to Leeds. What else do I really love doing? And I've always been into health and fitness and well-being. So I did my fitness instructor's course, became like, an aerobics instructor. And what was funny was my aerobics classes were packed because it was like, she's the actress in Coronation Street. And so that's what I mean. It kind of then led on to, then I was doing some articles in the Evening Press as York Fitness Guru,
Wow.
and then the sort of fitness career started to outgrow the acting career. Although I always saw it as still performing because you're standing in front of a group of people acting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And did you continue looking for more parts, or did it fizzle out? How did you move into the next chapter of your life?
Yeah. So it actually, looking back on it, I did continue. So suddenly I'm there going, I've had this part. And again, back in that time, I was sending videos of it out as my show reel because everyone kept saying, when you're in something, let us know. And it's like,
Yeah.
but I can't get in something until you give me the job. And now I'm going, yes, now I'm in something. And they're still going, yeah, but no, thanks. And so I was still desperately applying for jobs. I then, after that, got some work at Harrogate Theatre in theatre and education, which again I loved. And I actually did really love the theatre work and the camaraderie between the actors that is kind of much more in theatre. And from that, I then got the part of running the youth theatre there. And I used to then do drama workshops. So I kind of saw it as I'm still acting, but I was actually more teaching than acting. And then I was also working for a company that used to do murder mystery events.
Yes.
So I was kind of going, well, okay, they're 50-50 doing aerobics classes and fitness classes and doing odds and sods of drama workshops and this murder mystery thing. So it really was cobbling things together. And then after doing that for about 3 years, I got pregnant with our first child. And suddenly that's a really a good way that it makes you start going, what can I actually do to start bringing in some money? And it was kind of like, well, the acting work is just not bringing in the money the way I thought. I still kept doing some of the murder mystery evenings, but I just thought, I'm going to have to put my focus into the fitness stuff because that's where I had more control. Because the
Yeah.
problem with the acting work is you're relying on someone else giving you the job unless you're setting yourself up independently with it. So the acting stuff kind of then started to unconsciously slip away more. And then the fitness stuff started to build.
And so that's one meant for more moment.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when we went to base camp and Maxine Gordon had
Yeah.
interviewed me because I'd come up with this how I want to come out of lockdown. A relationship had ended, and I wanted to do something that gave me my empowerment back in a big, and that also was a goal that required me to show up now, to be really present now, to be healthy, to be fit, to be strong. And so I had this brilliant idea of, I'll take 10 people. I didn't know it was going to be women until most of the places were women. Then I thought, I've got to make a decision here. This either is an all women's group or we're going to be all women and one man or something like that. So I decided it would be all women to base camp Everest. And I remember Maxine interviewing me, being excited, and the paper came out. What was the headline? Can you remember the headline? The headline, it was mainly about you.
I know, and this is what I mean. This is honestly where Coronation Street has been a gift, and because again, like I say, all these random other things I've done, it's suddenly like from cobbles to base camp or something like that, wasn't it? Or and like when I, like when I did my acting career, my fitness career, again, the Coronation Street bit came out as like Coronation Street star doing turns fitness guru. And even like with our shop, I sent in a press release about our shop. And obviously when they've looked around and then this press release came out of like Coronation Street Star open shopping. And I'm like, oh my word, I'm not sure I can still rank as I don't know if I ever ranked as a Coronation Street Star. But it is lovely because people come in either going, so which part were you? Or going, oh my word, my mum remembers you, or, I used to watch it with my mum or my gran. And so actually, whereas I used to be a bit sniffy about Coronation Street as a drama student, when I got the part, I was like, running around and excited because it was an opportunity, and it still has been, but in ways I didn't anticipate, because I thought it was going to launch my acting career, but in actual fact, it's given profile to other things I've been doing.
It's interesting when we get to our age,
Hmm.
and I can say that. I mean, you're considerably older than me
I am.
by
I'm
a
a whole
whole week.
7 days. Yeah,
So,
literally 7 days
there's
older.
when we can look back, can't we? And we can
Mm,
see enough evidence to see why something had to happen for all
yeah,
the other things to happen.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
How something was, we might look back and think, oh, but I was only in 6 episodes. But really, you're looking at it with amazing gratitude of, I was in 6 episodes, and you haven't milked it ever since. But it has been an advantage ever since, hasn't
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time, I can remember, and I think I've said this to you before, I had like a journal a friend bought me that I then only ever wrote in when I was really down. And I lived on my own for a few years. And so actually, sometimes that was my companion. And I remember looking back at that and thinking, I was doing the career I'd wanted to do, not doing it, which was the problem. So when I was reading in this book, I thought, I sound really miserable, because whenever I was writing in it, I was like, another audition, and another knockback, or didn't even get an audition. And it was really hard, because I remember having a spate of auditions and recalls for every one. So I thought, statistically, I'm going to get one of these parts. And the feedback one by one was, you were too tall. And you go, I can't do anything about my height. And then another one said, oh, actually, it was for two sisters. So we found two girls who look alike. You didn't look like any of them. Another one was, you were too young, you were too. And all these things, I just thought, I can't do anything about that. If they'd said you were a bit rubbish and you need to do X, Y, and Z, I'd have gone away and worked on that. And that was what was really hard, was it was things out of my control. And so at the time of Coronation Street, when I thought, this is it now, this is going to be the door opening to my acting career, actually, when I got that TV episode where he dumped me on the telephone, my world came crashing down, because I was like, this was me starting to kind of progress along this journey. So like you say, now I can look back at that, and it's a funny story now, if like I got, I got dumped on the telephone. That was how I found out I wasn't in it anymore. No letters from them, no nothing, no correspondence, just that was it, end of. But like you say, it's led to so many other opportunities, but at the time you don't see that. It's just like another nail in the coffin. Or my mindset then was that, of like another blow, another. And that's the bit that's been a slow evolving process, is my mindset and how I look and regard these kind of what would seem like a negative, as actually, where's the lesson here? Where's the positive? What can I take from that and move forward with it?
And I guess that's tricky when you're younger, when you are proving who you are when you're younger, because we're kind of newbies at everything, aren't we? So we
Absolutely.
are in that space of proving and establishing and demonstrating. So there's a lot of effort in that. We can't ever rest on our
Absolutely.
laurels and think, well, people know who I am. They know what my work is. We're having to create the work to prove. And also we have to make ends meet. So there's
Absolutely.
that proving and needing to make
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember when I was in my 20s, it was so devouring, me getting a job and doing and being in sales. And it actually was really lovely, because I was in hotel sales. So I had the most luxurious of jobs, really. But I was still almost self-taught and proving that I am worthy of the job I've got and the one I want next.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm working and thinking the way to prove is to work all the hours God sends. And I just think now that we're in our mid 50s, how blessed do we get to be in our mid 50s, when we
Yeah,
know so many people don't make it this far.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
when we look back, we can see how all why certain things had to not work out to lead us to the things that feel an even better
Absolutely.
fit.
Absolutely.
And so I guess what the question that's in my mind at the moment when you think about meant for more, what does the statement mean to you? And did it have a part to play in saying yes to Base Camp Everest, I wonder?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously it's the name of your podcast, and I kept thinking, when did I think I was meant for more? And I thought, actually, there's always been, be that instinct, gut feeling, inner voice, whatever you want to call it, of just knowing and knowing inside. So even when I sat in auditions, and like when you're talking about the 20s, I'm going, 20s are really hard, actually. My kids are all in their 20s now, and I think it's not an easy time because you are doing all those things. And I remember sitting in auditions and thinking, they're all so much better than me. Why am I here? That negative chat that I've learned to kind of try and tune out. Um, but I look back now and go, good on me though, because I still sat there believing everyone else was better than me and that they'd all laugh at me and go, why on earth are you here? Which of course no one ever did. But I still stuck at it because I was like, I want to do this. And then, with the acting, the way that kind of developed and then the fitness stuff developed. And then I can remember being at home with three very young children. At that point, the acting career was non-existent. The fitness career was a little bit hit and miss. And I'd done complementary therapies and Reiki then. And again, I was trying to cobble bits. And I remember like hoovering food up off the floor and standing in our dining room going, how have I got here? How am I basically a stay-at-home mum, which I did actually love. But I had that moment of just going, I'm loving this, but this is not me. I need to do something for me that's more than just picking up food off the floor and tidying up the house, after the kids. And that's when actually I was like, what else can I do that gives me purpose, that lights me up? And actually the thing I'd always said I didn't want to be, which was a teacher, I genuinely went into it going, well, I could do that because it fits around the kids' school holidays and I'll get a regular income.
Mm.
But I actually absolutely loved teaching. And it turned out it took on all my acting skills and that flexibility, of like, well, that didn't go to plan. So let's kind of, swap it and do something else. Standing up performing every day in front of an audience of 30, 9
How
to
old?
11-year-olds.
9 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah. But again, yeah. So actually, when I was thinking if that meant for more, that moment in the dining room of just going, I'm basically, the lackey for these three kids, of which I adore, but equally going, there's more for me here. And that's when I did the teaching. And then my next kind of meant for more, I guess, was going, well, actually, I guess within all this, when I was a teenager, I remember going, because I was veggie at 16, going to this whole food cafe that then was like, it was above the Blakehead bookshop. I don't even know if that's still there, down Micklegate. And they used to have all their like, I don't know, meditation classes and yoga classes, which was really then a little bit out there and hippie and bohemian. But I loved all that. And I remember saying to my friend, when I'm older, I'd love a place like this. So actually in lockdown, I remember thinking, yeah, well, at some point I will have that place. And it was actually my husband who said, yeah, you've been saying that for years and never done anything about it. And actually, that was the kick up the bum I needed, because again, that was that. Unless I do something, that's not going to happen by magic. And honestly, by the time we started to go, well, what would this look like and what would I do? And I had the opportunity during lockdown to be teaching less and working it out and inquiring. The speed that unfolded and presented itself. And part of me was like, this is what I sowed the seed of, 30 plus years ago, of where I wanted to be. And actually, within that kind of hot housing off lockdown, I was like, actually not a cafe. And then that's how the shop came about. And genuinely, I stand in the shop and go, this is what I wanted when I sat in that cafe, that sense of community, of talking to people. But it's also given me that what next, what now? And that's when the base camp thing came up, where suddenly I was like, yeah, I didn't know I've never wanted to do base camp. It was never on my bucket list. But then when the opportunity arose, there was something that I was like, yeah. And it genuinely, that whole lead up to it absolutely scared the bejesus out of me and excited me in equal measures. I would wake up with panic attacks going, oh my God, what have I signed up to? And then at the same time, be going, oh my God, and we used to have the most amazing little voice messages on my way to work every
Yeah.
morning. And I genuinely, I've said to you before, I used to look at my feet walking to work going, these feet are going to base camp.
These feet are going to be on Nepal. These
Yeah,
feet are going to be carrying me. I know.
I know.
Do you remember that walk we did the first walk we ever did, because I was completely unfit, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to set a goal that was so big, it required me to show up consciously and
Yes.
unconsciously right now. And I think we walked up like a slight incline near where you live. And you were fine because you're a fitness instructor, and that doesn't mean like job done, you never have to
No,
exercise
not at all.
again.
I worked hard for base
You
camp.
worked
Yeah.
hard, yeah. And I was completely out of breath, and you looked at me and thought, how are you how are you
You're the leader.
how are you inspired to do base camp? But then about, oh, I don't know, a couple of
Oh,
months
I know what
later,
you're going
we
to
had,
say.
you know the story.
I do know the
We were
story.
we had just the most gorgeous walks on the Wolds near where
Mm,
you live. Absolutely gorgeous. And we would just set off with our rucksacks and our water and our food. And I remember us just constantly chatting. I had a little method. Uphill, I would listen.
yes.
You would do the talking, and downhill, I would do the talking. And I remember one particular day us eating and walking, and we didn't even need to stop
No,
for lunch. And I remember us saying, "Hey, look at us eating pie, walking uphill, talking."
that was our fitness
That was our measure
peak.
of fitness, that we could eat a pie. You had a vegan pie, I had a cheese and onion pie, walking uphill. But that me setting Base Camp Everest as a goal. And so my meant for more moment was, without a shadow of a doubt, really obvious to me. My mind was full of an old relationship that was done. I had moved back to York after lockdown, and I needed to re-establish my business. And I had like an emptiness in
Mm,
my life that I thought, I am meant for more
yeah.
than just filling this emptiness. I need something that is going to capture me. It's going to capture my eyes, my heart, my soul. Give me, and I want more connection. I want more connection to myself. I want more community connection, because we'd been without community, hadn't we,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
so long. And so it was like it was a big moment for me
Mm,
that particular time. But the journey of getting ready to go to Base Camp Everest was as rich, if not even richer, than the experience of Base Camp Everest. And that was pretty spectacular.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And that very first walk that you're talking about, I also remember though having my new boots. And that for me, that was the bit of kit that I was like, that suddenly I was like, my word, like these boots are maybe going to be the boots I wear to base camp.
Yeah.
And they were laced, but they have the hook bit at the top where you
Yeah.
hook your laces round. And I remember walking and I had my bottle of water in my backpack, of which you always said my backpack was too small, but it was like, it got me there.
It flipping did.
But I remember walking on the path with you, and whatever I'd done, the part of the bow of one of my boots caught in the hook of the other boot. And as I tripped, I then bent down to fix my boots and my water bottle fell out my side pocket into the road. And I just thought, I'm on a path. And it was like, and and I just remember thinking, you're going to be thinking, my God, who is this? Like,
It was,
loose cannon that I'm taking. And then, like you say, then we were going up the hill and you were just like going, no talking.
talking, and whose idea was this to do base camp? And we
And I
were
just
only
remember
walking
coming
around,
back from,
we were
I
only
came back
walking
from
around,
that going, what a disaster, but great as well.
we were walking around the golf course,
No,
weren't we, at Pocklington, that one of your customers had drawn out on the back of a paper
I've still
bag
got that
for
piece
us.
of paper.
It just as because I used to do all my training for anything over at the Yorkshire Three Peaks,
Yeah,
Pen Whernside and Ingleborough. But that's a 3 hour round trip.
yeah,
And it makes it so we were hoping to find something more local, which we did near you. But I have to say, that trip itself did more for me than I could ever have hoped it could. I came back I came back with COVID, which was a part blessing because I couldn't wait to be isolated for
yeah,
2 weeks. Because 10 women, there was 11, well, there was 12 women, 11 women in the end because there was a leader from different travel.
yeah,
And we had varying degrees of people needing helicopters for different reasons. Somebody needed, because of a dodgy tummy on the plane going, and through nervousness, needed to be helicoptered onto the mountain after a little stint of rehydration in hospital. And then we had somebody needed to be helicoptered off the mountain because she'd come with an illness that hadn't been disclosed that then made it really difficult when she had altitude sickness. So we had different donkey rides. We had varying degrees of challenge and
yeah. And everyone obviously came to it with their own perception of it. And for me, and again, my route to finding you, and in lots of ways, not to kind of blow your trumpet for you too much, but do, I know you love it. Again, I came to the importance of being yourself just before lockdown. And I was teaching then. And again, I knew I was meant for more. But what I wanted was an epiphany, that lightning bolt. So I remember coming to your importance of being yourself, loving it, but going, yeah, I didn't really get a lightning bolt though, and that's what I came for. But I remember then sending you a friend request on Facebook and being really quite, tickled that you accepted it.
not as much
But
as me.
then, yeah, but then following you during lockdown, you used to do the Be Unstoppable and listening to your and I loved those and hearing like real people and their real stories. And I guess that also was part of my unfolding of oh, actually, this is what, yeah, just again, I can't think of a specific moment. It was like that drip, drip, like breadcrumb trail of building that plus, other things I was doing and reading.
But I just want to say, I think when Paul said, you say you want that, but you haven't done anything about it.
Yeah.
That was a moment of clarity when you said that's exactly what you needed to hear and with the right energy at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think once you had that clarity of yes,
Yes.
then I think that life then starts giving us all the signs of signposts of opportunities, because I think opportunities are around us all the time, but when we don't know what it is we want, then we don't know where the opportunities
Exactly
are.
that. Exactly that. And I think exactly like you say, they are there, but if you're not looking for them, you don't see them. And as soon as you start looking, it's like, oh my word, there's loads of them. And so actually, yeah, that sort of speed of clarity and opportunity and things just working out. I'm like, I've never been on a journey like this where suddenly can't do, wrong for doing right kind of thing. And like I say, when I signed up to base camp, suddenly it was like, actually, I've already just had a massive life change in terms of giving up a career, setting up the shop. And I think it was about a year ahead of signing up to base camp. And I remember thinking, it's going to be fine. It'll work out. The shop will still run. We'll get cover. It will all work out. But at the same time thinking, I need to really, I've always kept myself fit and well, but I suddenly thought this is a major physical mental, adventure, I need to kind of get in training for it. And everyone came to it with different and varying amounts of training and fitness, and it isn't to be underestimated, the challenge, and also not just the physical challenge, but the mental. Because for me, I was like, I've actually never been away from home since the kids have been born for 16 days. I've never been away for Paul for, that long. So even just things like that of what if I get homesick,
Mm.
but it was amazing. And like I say, the journey up to it and the unfolding of that, I absolutely loved. And pushing myself, I started doing some cold water dipping, Wim Hof breathing, because I had an incentive to do those things because I wanted to get the most out of doing base camp.
What did you think you came back with, either a confirmation of or a learning about yourself or about life?
I learned a lot about myself in base camp. I have a bit of a fear of heights. I loved going over those bridges, which
Just describe the bridges to
well,
anybody listening.
it's a bit like, think of macrame. Like someone's macrame'd a bridge across a massive ravine, and some bits have split, but it looks really pretty because it's decorated in prayer flags. And there's bits of things missing as you're walking over it, and they wobble.
Well, and there's a mule coming towards you
And there's
carrying
a mule
somebody's
or a
bag.
load of or a herd of them. And I can remember walking across it at one point and put my hands up in the air and going, right, I am not going to put my hands on the side. And I had a kind of knowing inside of, I'm going to be okay. And equally a knowing of, and if I'm not, that's fine too. And that was a kind of freedom I'd not had. And I think because my default is making sure everyone's okay, looking after the kids. Is everyone all right? Is everyone safe? Is everyone happy? And that's really tiring sometimes. And actually just going, I've only got me to look after. And I know that was you were saying with the trip, the idea initially was that people didn't come with friends.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So that you were responsible for yourself only. You didn't have that emotional tug
Obligation.
or obligation for someone. And actually, for me, that was really freeing and really empowering. And suddenly go and feeling really fit and loving it and thinking, I can do this. And all my fears before I'd gone of what if I can't breathe? What if I panic because I can't breathe properly? What if I get homesick? What if I, even sleeping in a sleeping bag was a challenge.
Yeah, claustrophobic.
And so actually when I was there, none of those fears were realised. And so actually each day was a gift, and just loving, although we were together, also loving my own company, which again was an
Because we
eye-opener.
could just zone out from each other, come and walk in silence.
Yeah.
And half the time we did walk in silence because it required all of our focus in the moment, because it was so wet. Where we put our feet,
Yeah.
where we trod, did matter, because you wanted to put your feet in a good footing.
Yeah.
When we're going uphill, even coming downhill is harder than going up. But it was so busy as well, wasn't it? Because there'd been a lot of plane flights cancelled due to weather, and then the weather had opened up, plus base camp had been closed for all of lockdown and only just opened up. People cancelled holidays, so there was more people on the trek than there would be normally. So it did require us to be it required us to be really present. And I think it's a rare treat to be really present. I think that there's an obligation in life sometimes to have our mind on lots of different things, whilst, for example, cooking dinner and having a conversation with
Yes.
somebody whilst finishing something else off.
Yeah.
I don't know that those demands are required of us, but we almost have that expectation of ourselves. And the great thing about base camp meant that the only thing that was expected of us was to take a good step.
Yes.
And to follow what we're being told, hydrate, eat, sleep, walk.
Actually, yeah, you've just reminded me. That was actually one of my biggest loves from it, was that you had to be in the here and now. And I can sometimes get lost in my head, running 100, to-do lists and overthinking certain things. And you, like you say there, that all went.
Because it commanded that of us, didn't it?
Yeah.
There was no point thinking about, well, what's tomorrow going to be like? Because we're still doing today.
Absolutely. And even just that breathe in, breathe out, breathe, to kind of regulate your breathing. And obviously, as it got harder because of altitude, sometimes just focusing, which are all meditative things, aren't they? Focus on your breath work, which I struggle with. If I was to sit in this chair and do that, I'd also start then looking. But when you're climbing up somewhere, and going like, right, breathe in, breathe out. And your little thing of like, my legs are strong and my lungs are powerful, or is it the
Yeah.
other way around?
No, it's right. Perfect.
But that little mantra got me up, some
Because
steep mountainsides.
because you can sometimes feel your legs, can't you? Feel that they're working. And it's easy for the mind to think, oh, my legs are aching, but the thing is, whatever we tell ourselves will become an instruction to our body and will become our experience. So it's about interpreting what is it I am feeling and what is it that I want my body to interpret.
Mm,
And so having that mantra, which I'd used, Peggy, my spiritual mentor, had given to me when I climbed Kilimanjaro. She said, your legs are strong, your lungs are powerful. And we would chant it to each other, wouldn't we, on base
yeah,
camp?
yeah.
All together, and then suddenly we felt lighter and we actually started moving a
Mm,
little bit faster, but not because we'd speeded up necessarily, but because we were walking with a bit more confidence with each step
yeah.
and a bit more certainty. And I think that's what that preparation, base camp was something like 18 days, but actually it was a year of our life
Absolutely.
that went with it. And I love setting goals
Mm,
that powerfully and positively affect my everyday on the journey to achieving the goal. And that's how I create when I feel like I'm meant for more, I think, but what more is it that I need today? I need more focus, more discipline, I need more adventure. And like you say, we have to create all of those things.
yes.
And so for you, when you have the feeling of meant for more, what does it feel like?
I guess it's that an inner wisdom, an inner knowing that this isn't quite where I'm meant to be, or this is okay for now, but something else has to happen. And like you say, sometimes for me, I have to kind of sit in that a little bit and go, so for example, when I was there in our dining room thinking, how did I end up becoming this person who basically exists to clean and feed, a family? And it's not better than that because that's a really important job. And not to underestimate that, but I was like, I need something more for me.
Mm,
And actually, sometimes it is just being open to seeing what comes in. And so, like I say, I ended up becoming a primary school teacher, which I'd said since I did my degree when people were doing then their teacher training afterwards, I'm not going to be a teacher, not going to be a teacher, not going, never going to be a teacher. Sitting in my interview for being a teacher going, well, actually, yeah, I used to teach aerobics and then I rang the youth theatre and then I used to do drama workshops and then I did complementary therapies and I'm like, I've been teaching in different formats for years. And even now in the shop, it's kind of like when you're chatting to people, I learn from them, I pass that knowledge on. We do evening events in the shop. So it's almost like just going with the flow, being a bit open to seeing where a path will take. But I guess just that knowing initially where I am isn't lighting me up enough. So what else do I need? And sometimes it is, like for me, yeah, there was that, okay, I'm open and ready to receive. Be that Paul saying, yeah, you've said that and not done anything about it. Be it you saying, are you up for doing Everest Base Camp? And I said, I'm listening. And you're going, right, I'll call you tonight. And it's like, I was trying to be less, like a bit non-committal about it. But you made me commit in the best possible way, actually, that I needed, which was like, here's all the information. Let me know.
yeah, yeah.
And it was like, right, okay, this isn't just, I'll think about it and I'll and ah. And then it'll get to a point where I've left it too late and can't do anything about it. It was like, oh, if I'm in, I'm in. And so, yeah, for me, those meant for mores are almost just acknowledging where you're at, not necessarily always knowing your next step, but being open to see where that next step will go, and know that everything's kind of, there's a lesson in everything. So even if it all goes pear-shaped, there's a lesson in that. What did you learn from it? What will you do
Where did it
differently?
where did it lead you to that you wouldn't have been led to without it? And I
Yeah,
think what I'm hearing is you're meant for more, particularly around when you had the children, was more of I need to take responsibility for my own inner fulfillment. And
absolutely.
so I want to feel a bit more fulfilled. So I need to actively add that ingredient. And it's like you say, it's not that, oh, I'm meant for a better life and bringing up children. It's that I feel like something is missing in me and I'm going to take responsibility for finding what that is.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm all about every day I say my little gratitudes, and sometimes that gratitude is the fact that I've woken up again this morning, that
Yes.
I'm in a warm, comfy bed. And with my kids, I absolutely loved actually being the stay-at-home mum. But I also thought, like you're saying, I need something to fill me up a little bit more so I can be a better mum and and a role model. And actually that's when they were really little, I discovered Reiki. And again, that was one of those things, somebody mentioned Reiki and it was almost like a kind of flashing sign. And for me, I was like, I remember my Reiki master saying, Reiki finds you if you don't find it. It's not necessarily for everybody, but for me, I was like, that's the path I'm going to take. And initially I did it because I just thought I've lost a bit of my inner peace.
Mm.
I'm becoming a bit of a screaming banshee mum, and I don't like that. I want to be, nice, kind,
Then,
chilled mum, not screaming at them to get the shoes on because we're late for playgroup and then going, playgroup, it's playgroup, it doesn't
yeah,
matter. So it's just kind of being mindful, I guess, and being aware.
yeah,
And then also going, right, okay, you need to do something. You can't just sit back and wait for that
yeah, yeah.
lightning bolt.
So it's that kind of, oh, I'm acknowledging for you, I'm acknowledging I want to say up leveling, but I mean an up leveling of what interests you or where you are. But in business, we'd call that continuous improvement.
Yes.
And with people, it'd be performance improvement plan. In business, it would be how can we continuously improve our process? Why not the same for our lives? Because
Absolutely.
different things stimulate us, different things intrigue us. The more we learn about something, the more we realize we don't know that we want to learn more of.
Absolutely.
And so it's that kind of and so I think what you're saying as well is for you is that you acknowledge, oh, I'm ready for more meaning or more fulfillment. Right now, I'm open to seeing what is out there for me and trying it on, which is what you did with Basecamp. You thought you got the shop, you'd had lockdown and got the shop after lockdown, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. It was
Yes.
lockdown one. So we opened September 2020.
Yes, and because I remember on in the Be Unstoppable Club Facebook group, you saying that was my last day and a picture of the card and presents the
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
had got
yeah.
you ready to step into
Yeah.
the having the
Yeah, because I
shop.
came and did a firewalk, my first ever firewalk with you a couple of weeks before we opened. Because I remember Paul saying to me, if you burn your feet and we can't open the shop. And I was a bit like, you'll be fine. But going, oh my God, yeah, what if I burn
But
my
you
feet
also, what was wonderful is you brought your two daughters and your son's girlfriend
at the time?
at the time. Yes, that one of the time.
Yeah, that one of the time.
And what a great experience. So, just in closing, then, Theresa, what would your top tip be to anybody who thinks I've got an ache or a stirring that's something I'm ready for more or meant for more? What would your tip be to them?
I would say if you've got that stirring, you're right.
Nice.
Because if you're feeling that, and that's not, and listen to that and sit with it for a little bit. It doesn't mean that you've got to go out there straight away and hand your notice in or leave your partner or whatever, but it's kind of like sit with it a little bit and see what kind of unfolds. For me, I've discovered different podcasts or people or books And bits that they'll say within these podcasts you're doing, there'll be nuggets for people that'll go, yeah, if something kind of stirs for you, go with that and say yes. Open yourself to opportunities. There's learning in everything, and my mum always used to say, if it's meant for you, it won't pass you by. And
Oh,
it's that, so take the risk of trusting in yourself and listening to that gut and yeah, put yourself out there.
that saying, what's for you won't go by you, has supported many a heartache, whether it's a heartache of something not going to plan or end of a relationship or not getting a returned call, that kind of just letting go a little bit, still
Yes,
fully participating in life, but just letting go of thinking that we're in control of every tiny detail and just have a bit of
actually,
trust.
absolutely. And that's key. I did a yoga class, as in like participated in the other week. And one of the readings that Lucy from Soul Tribe read was from a book called The Language of Yin, which is for yoga teachers, but it was all about letting go, because it's that idea that the tighter you hold on to something, actually you stifle it. And relinquishing that power sometimes is really freeing. You're not responsible for other people's well-being, happiness. You can try and support them in it, but the only person you're in control of is yourself. The only person you can truly make happy is yourself. That's where your responsibility lies. And sometimes just that letting go is actually really empowering, and just trusting that, okay, things are going to work out. Other people will always cope. The base camp thing for me, I was like, okay, how can I make it easy for everybody else so that I can go? And then realizing I can go. I need to look after me to get me there. Yeah, I can put certain things in place, but do you know what? That's not my responsibility. They're their responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Thank you so much, Theresa. I could chat, well, I do chat to
I know
you
we do.
all day. I really appreciate all the wisdom that you have shared today. And thank you so much, lovely.
Oh, well, thank you. And hopefully something in there helps somebody out there.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to be involved in the Meant for More movement, then please drop me a line at lisa@lisaclifford.co.uk. Whether that's you're interested in being on the podcast, taking part in any of the trainings, or would just love to know how you can help empower others, then let's have a conversation. Thank you for listening, and we'll connect again very soon.